So now we're going to bring in one of the people that I first knew about when I started doing a podcast. And of course, that can only be Steve Novella, because I can only be referring to, of course, The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, the biggest and most established podcast in this genre since before any of the rest of us were doing anything. So that's Steve. He looks suspiciously like a floating letter S.
And I can hear you, right? I mean,
that's to start his video.
Is your camera not on?
Maybe. I was testing it.
There you go. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Doing great. Good to see you, too.
Congratulations on 13 years. That's quite a milestone.
He said, humble bragging. What are you up to now? You're just at 14, right?
14 and a half years.
14 and a half. Wow. What episode number?
14, we've both been at this since pretty much the beginning.
Pretty much the beginning of time, as measured in podcast history.
Beginning of skeptical podcasting. I mean,
so
doesn't go back that much further.
Now, I know we've asked this before, but where were you in skepticality in terms of who came first?
So skepticality, I think, started 2 weeks before we did.
Wow.
It was almost at the same time. In May of 2005.
But you didn't know each other, right? That was just...
We didn't. I didn't learn about their existence until like 6 months into this. This was before podcasts were even existed on iTunes.
Right.
It didn't really even exist as a phenomenon yet. We were just, using our own website as a media server. The infrastructure wasn't there. RSS existed, the really simple syndication, but that was really it. Everything was just hand-coded. We were definitely, like, guys like us were trailblazers. We were making it up as we went along.
I also used our web server as the media server at first, and after 4 months, I jumped onto the front page of iTunes Science section, where you probably already were, and I then got a $3,500 invoice from Rackspace for bandwidth. I mean, that just made
breaks your website.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So I got found another solution pretty toot sweet after that. That was a surprise. So yeah, don't listen to anyone when they say, "Hey, Don't listen to anyone when they tell you podcasters are lying when they say we need your donations to pay for bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. It's a real thing.
It's actually a lot more expensive now. We started with our media host very early, and we kind of got grandfathered in before they realized that when podcasting grew by orders of magnitude, and the media host got taken by surprise too.
Right.
And so they had to redo their whole financing. They had to charge people differently. But we were kind of locked in at this ridiculous rate, by modern standards. They should be charging us 10 times what they're charging us. But we do commercials for them every now and then or whatever to make up for it. But
yeah,
if you jump in now, it'd be even more expensive.
We host on Amazon Web Services, courtesy of what do they call it? The Amazon Web Services grants or something for nonprofits. Mm-hmm. So that's really what makes it possible. If it wasn't for that, we'd be up a creek.
No, bandwidth is really expensive. People don't realize it. They get like, I have a website, it's like $15 a month. It's like, they find some way to severely limit it. You always got to read the fine print. There's always something that's very, very finite. They could squeeze you down in one way or the other. If you have anything with any real traffic, it is hard to find hosting. Then there's this. You basically go from like the $9.99, a month, nothing hosting, where you get almost no traffic. And then there's corporate level hosting, where they're expecting you to spend thousands of dollars a month. And there's not that much in between, and I think podcasters like us, like we're homegrown, we're not part of any kind of big media company. We're just doing this out of our living rooms. That we fall in the middle. We're too big for anything, any individual server, and we can't afford corporate hosting, but we're kind of stuck in the middle,
Well,
we need our listeners.
Your episodes are basically 6 times as long as mine, so probably about 6 times as much bandwidth for the same episode. So I think we serve like 2 terabytes a day. I can't imagine what yours must be.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, our shows are they're like 40 megabytes an episode.
Ugh.
To download them.
So let's see. I want to get your thoughts on a particular photograph here. Could we bring up number 22 green, please? And you're going to explain to oh yeah.
That's green.
Oh no, that's green. That's the right one. It's not what I was thinking, but that's what I said. So tell us what's going on here.
All right, so I think this was the first time like you and I really had any time to hang out together when we were doing the Skeptologists. You very nicely invited me to join you on that project. So this was an early attempt at doing a skeptical TV show, and here we are in a health food store drinking the grass juice. What do you call it? The wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass.
Wheatgrass juice, yeah. And that stuff is nasty. let me tell you. It's like, it tastes like grass. You went out in your lawn. But going down was a lot easier than coming out because
don't tell me that.
I had green diarrhea when I was That did not sit well. We are not ruminants. We are not meant to eat grass. We do not have the digestive system for this.
This is just such a classic photo because the look on all 3 of your faces. That's Michael Shermer, Kristen Sanford, and Steve.
And Mike pretended like he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Like, this is pretty good. I could do this. Come on.
And this next one is more confusing to me. Let's go to 22 oranges. What are you skeptical of in this picture? What's going on?
So, I think the point I was making here is that it's the whole superfood thing. Like wheatgrass is presented as a superfood, but you actually get way more nutrition out of everyday cheap produce like oranges. You don't have to go to some boutique, health food store and get something exotic or silly, like some kind of tropical fruit, acai or whatever, or pond scum or wheatgrass or whatever the latest fad, superfood of the day is. Good old, blueberries and oranges, man, blow anything you're going to get in a health food store away.
Okay, let's go to 22 weird, and I have no memory of what this picture consists. Oh my God, that's a weird picture.
So this has got to be some conference, right? Was this?
I hope it's a conference. It's not just daily life.
Were you at the TAM Sydney, like that first TAM in Sydney? Is that where we are?
Or that could be
one of the TAMs in Las Vegas. That's Derek, right, between you and Richard Saunders. So Richard Saunders, Derek Culinary, you, and then me.
4 of the originals.
Yeah.
Because I think
exactly right.
Didn't Richard start about? I think he was going already when I started. Do you happen to know?
Yeah. It was right around the same time, maybe within a year of us starting. So so Derek was in 2 weeks before us, then Eve Skeptic's Guide, then Skeptoid, and Skeptic Tank at the time, now the Skeptic Zone. I think that's why we took that picture. Like we were like the 4 original oldest skeptical podcasts on the planet.
I'd just say that the one particular tweak could have improved this picture immeasurably. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's go to 22 phone book. And why should we be skeptical of this photo?
So we were. This I think is in Australia.
Yeah, this was.
And somebody there, I forget who it was, one of the locals taught us how to rip a phone book in half. And it's totally doable. It's not as hard as you think. There's like everything, right? There's a technique to it. And once you know the technique, it doesn't take that much strength. Because you basically fold it in a certain way that you get a seam, and then you put the force in the proper location, and you could tear a phone book in half. It really isn't that hard.
Do you remember? I remember doing this too, but I don't remember what the technique was. Did you start from the what do you call it? The binding end, or start from the pages end?
Yeah, you start from the loose end.
Okay.
And then you're not ripping it along the binding, of course, you're ripping it what looks like the hard way, with the pages in half. But you have to bend it enough that you get a real crease. It's not just curved. You actually get like a divot in the book, and then that forms a weak point. And then you could just give once you get that initial tear, it just gives all the way through, because paper doesn't have strength in that direction, right? It has whatever tensile strength, but not the other one. So it's all about getting that crease. Once you got the crease in there, it was done.
I think I remember the guy saying that you're not tearing it so much as breaking it.
Yeah, right.
Not that would help me if I tried to do it now. Okay, let's go to the final picture here, 22 Vegas. So the first thing a good skeptic does is he heads straight to the gambling tables and puts out as much money as he can.
So this is probably the last TAM, right?
No, I think this is Psychon. I think this was Psychon maybe last year, maybe even the year before.
Psychon, okay. Yes, this is fair.
Whoops. Did we lose you? Oh, I think we're buffering there.
I'm still here.
Okay, start over again. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is fairly recent because Kara is with us, obviously, so I can tell it's within the last few years. So yeah, this could be Psychon. She was with us for the very last TAM, so it's either that or later. But we were at Psychon together as well, so it could be then. But yeah, we always at these Vegas conferences. Obviously, we don't do a lot of gambling, but we usually hit the tables one night. Lose our $100 and then move on just for fun, just to say we did.
Yeah, I remember I don't remember even what game this was, but she was schooling everyone on how to play it, like she was the expert. Does that sound right?
Yeah. It's hard to tell by how much is showing on the table. I don't remember what this is.
It's probably better to know what game it is when you're playing it. I didn't know what it was. I wasn't familiar with it, but anyway. So one thing that you guys did, I don't know, 5 years ago maybe, was I think you guys shot either a sizzle reel or a pilot for a TV show that was like the Three Skeptical Brothers or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it was for National Geographic. They came to us and wanted to do a skeptical pilot. And this happens all the time, right? Where you have some mid-level executive or low-level executive. Their job is just to throw a bunch of shit against the wall, right? And then see if any of them stick for the upper-level executives. So they're just producing a lot of shows. And I get contacted for these all the time. They usually don't go that far, but this one got all the way to a fully produced pilot. We did a sizzle reel, which it was called Conspiracy Nations. It was all about we came up with a list of 60 conspiracies, and we were just going to run through them. So we did a sizzle reel, which I really, really liked. Then we did essentially a 2-episode pilot, and then the National Geographic just did not go forward with it and just died at that point. And then that's it. It's like you have to basically win the lottery 3 times to actually get on television. Unless you're already a star. If you're a star, then you can do what you want. But if you're nobody like us, you got to win. Either you've got to fund it yourself. That will get you to the first step, right? If you fund it yourself, you can get to the point where you have a pilot. Like that's what we were trying to do with the skeptologists. Right. Then you got to shop it around. But if they come to you, you got to get past the first hurdle. That's 1 lottery. Then you got to get to the point where you're making a pilot. That's 2. Then they got to actually pick you up. So we won 2 out of 3, and then it was dead in the water. But of course, it means nothing now. You end up with nothing. Doesn't matter how close you get.
So we've had this conversation probably with 6 or 8 of our guests so far on the show tonight about either series that they were on that were maybe only short-lived, or various pilots that they were in that maybe did or didn't go anywhere. But, it's kind of the formula is all the same. It's the question that we've all struggled with is how do we get skeptical content to be more entertaining and more commercial? So, do you have a sense of where Conspiracy Nation might have missed that mark?
Not really. I think the idea was solid. I think that it was great content. The bottom, well, we were told, and we don't really know because we weren't in the room with the executives listening to them speak. But what we were told is that they just didn't like the edit that they were sent, and it would have cost too much to re-edit it, and that was enough. Not to make it. And the showrunner that we worked with, who was a very good showrunner, who has a lot of shows on TV. He said, guys, it's magic. I can't tell you what gets a show all the way to TV. It's total chaos. The only reason why any shows get to TV because something has to get there. But there's no way you can guarantee, again, unless you are already a star and you can usher it all the way through, there's no way to guarantee that you're going to get a show on the air. In our case, the original person who recruited us left the company and was, these people move around a lot. So she wasn't there to push it through. And so our show wasn't anyone's baby, right? There was nobody who had ownership over it.
Right.
And that sometimes that's enough to kill it. So I don't know. I mean, in fact, if I had the opportunity to do the exact same thing again, I don't know that I would change anything in terms of the content. I think it was just the magic of television production,
So was the concept that you're going to debunk a conspiratorial belief each week?
Absolutely, that was it. It was 100% skeptical. It wasn't any false balance or who knows if it's real or not. It was no, this is bunk. It's not a conspiracy, and we're just it was totally solid. I mean, and everyone liked the idea. It was never any pushback against the concept. So, we have a lot of conversation. You and I have had this conversation. I've spoken to, amongst ourselves, other skeptics. So what do we do? Well, of course, we'll keep throwing the dice anytime we have an opportunity to do so. If we have the funding, we would happily, make our own sizzle reel, make our own pilot. Again, it gets you one step forward, but you still got to throw the dice. Or we could just say, forget about network TV or cable. We have the internet. We'll just make our own videos and put them on YouTube or whatever. So we're doing that in the meantime. If something else happens, great. But if not, we're not going to be sitting away pining, for some TV executive. We're just going to do our own stuff and put it on the internet.
There was a thing when we had that. You may remember we did a little pilot. Ryan Johnson and I did a little pilot with Shira Lazar called Truth Hurts. That was funded by Sony at the time when Sony was doing Mr. Deity, and they were experimenting with some small investment into original web content. And at the time when that happened was when one of the studios, I don't remember which one, they made a major investment and made an entire season of a primetime cop drama where they spent $1 million per episode, fully produced, with cars and explosions and everything. And they put it on YouTube, and they were going to monetize it on YouTube. I mean, this is what people were experimenting with at the time.
Yeah.
And then Justin Bieber threw up on stage, and that video alone made 100 times as much money as the studio's project did. And they just said, that's it, the hell with that. That's not happening.
I know. I mean, it's definitely a disruptive technology, and nobody can predict it, I don't think. Nobody has the magic formula. So, we put our chips down in as many different places as we can, like you do. We're just constantly experimenting, hoping that something hits. But we have our flagship, right? If nothing else hits other than just our podcast, it's successful enough that I'm happy with that. Anything else is icing on the cake at this point. We have a book out, so we're happy about that. So that's it. We'll take what we can get, and we'll always take a chance on something new. But I don't think there's any way to guarantee make it happen.
Do you have any projects in the hopper right now besides the podcast?
Yeah, so we're doing Alpha Quadrant 6, which is a science fiction review show that is mainly YouTube videos, but we're also going to be putting that out as a podcast as well. So we're sort of evolving to maybe shorter videos and then the full-length, longer content as a podcast. Our first book is going into paperback this fall, and We have a couple other book ideas that we're working on, so hopefully we'll be getting another book out. And it only takes a couple of years, to write it and produce it and do all that stuff. I guess the big project that we're working on at the moment is we're doing a live stage show. So this is definitely experimental.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So this is the extravaganza, a skeptical extravaganza. So we've done this before, just at conferences and whatnot. But Brian Wecht, right? So our friend Brian Wecht is a physicist who now is actually he is a musician for kind of an indie group called Ninja Sex Party, and you can make a lot of money doing live shows, even if you don't have a big record contract. And there's now this burgeoning industry of doing live shows of either podcasters or YouTube video content creators, right? So if you have some online social media audience or presence, apparently those audiences are interested in seeing their favorite podcaster or their favorite YouTuber live on stage. So there are tour companies who will promote you if you do that. So long story short, Brian Wecht hooked us up with his tour company. So now we're taking the extravaganza on the road. We sort of revamped it 2.0 to make it appeal to a wider audience, so it's not just skeptical insiders. And we have 4 shows booked. We have another 4 or 5 that are in the works. We're going to have to see how those first dozen or so shows go. If it works out well, though, then that could be our next big thing that we do. It's a lot of fun. We're doing it with George Robb. We have a ton of fun doing it. It's always something different to do. The only downside is that it's travel, and you may have to take some time off, to do the traveling. You can't do it in your pajamas in your office, But so we'll see. Yeah, it's another experiment that we're doing. Okay, fine. Live stage shows. That's the thing. Okay. We're happy to do that.
You got the whole fully produced show with flash pots and dancers and everything, and
well, we're going to definitely up our game in terms of stage production, but the show is really it's the.
Got to see this.
It's George Robb. It's mostly improv. It's a lot of science critical thinking based games with audience participation. A lot of mindfuck demonstrations. And it's we're going to be there'll be some stagecraft going on, but we got to take it on the road, so we can't do too much because again it's not like we're going to be touring around in a huge tour bus or something. So we've literally got to be able to fit the show in a suitcase. So, but there will be props and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
I don't know. I'm thinking you need to get it into the tour bus. That sounds like the end goal in itself, right there.
Yeah. Well, if it takes off, then we'll see where it goes. It'll go where it goes. But right now, it's mainly stuff that doesn't require a lot of physical things. And the stuff that is physical, we're developing digital versions of them because if we have to fly to, our first show is in LA. We're going to be in LA on our way to New Zealand and Australia for the conferences there in November, December. So while we're there, we're going to spend the day in Los Angeles. We're going to do a live show, and we're going to do an extravaganza. So that'll be our first one of our rebooted 2.0 extravaganza. So we'll see how it goes. But we've got to fit everything in what we can take around the world, to Australia. So not a lot of big props.
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but we've hit the end of our time. That went incredibly fast. I just looked at my clock and thought, maybe we're halfway done. But thank you, Steve. I really appreciate your taking the time. Any chance to get to chat is a welcome one.
Yeah, my pleasure. Congratulations again. How are you holding up? So what hour are you in right now?
So this is not too bad yet. This is we started at 1:30 and now it's 7. So we've been going 5.5 hours out of 13. So almost at the halfway mark, and I'm still vertical. Still vertical.
Yeah, we've done a couple of these marathon shows, as you know. They go a lot faster than you think, and you tend to overschedule them because everything takes more time than you think. But I'm sure you'll get through it.
Well, the end time will arrive, no matter what happens with me.
it will end at
The
some
show
point.
will end.
The question, will you end first? I guess is the question.
Okay, man. Well, thank you so very much. We will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.